Most men attempt to add power to their personality. That approach fails because the problem was never a lack of strength. The problem was structural transparency. Your previous identity was built to function in cooperative environments, schools, workplaces, social circles where harmony is rewarded. In those systems, the man who explains, reassures, clarifies, and adapts quickly is perceived as socially intelligent. But competitive hierarchies do not reward emotional accessibility. They reward behavioral opacity. And that means the identity you built, the reasonable man, the cooperative man, the understandable man, cannot be upgraded. It must be replaced. The first identity must die. The readable man is easy to detect. He reveals himself through three predictable patterns. First, the need to resolve tension immediately. When silence appears, he fills it. When disagreement appears, he explains. When confusion appears, he clarifies. His nervous system interprets social friction as a problem that must be repaired. But power structures interpret that behavior differently. They see manageability. A man who cannot tolerate tension will always negotiate against himself. Introduce enough discomfort and he will start revealing information just to restore equilibrium. That is not diplomacy. That is surrender disguised as cooperation. The second pattern is emotional mirroring. The readable man adjusts himself to match the emotional temperature of the room. When others laugh, he laughs. When others tense, he tenses. When others become animated, he speeds up. This seems socially adaptive, but it signals something deeper. His internal state is externally adjustable. Anyone capable of controlling the emotional rhythm of the environment can control him. Powerful individuals do not mirror the room, they stabilize the room. The emotional baseline forms around them instead of the other way around. The third pattern is defensive explanation. When challenged, the readable man expands his communication. He clarifies intentions, adds context, provides reasoning, and tries to correct the interpretation. But explanation is rarely processed as strength. It is processed as an attempt to regain approval. The more a man explains himself, the more observers learn how to pressure him. Every additional sentence reveals what he fears being misunderstood about. And fear reveals leverage. This is why the identity must change, not cosmetically, structurally. The new identity operates on a different principle. Your internal state is not public infrastructure. It is not available for inspection on demand. That means the first replacement behavior is containment. Your reactions no longer exit the body automatically. When tension appears, you allow it to remain unresolved. When someone provokes you, you do not rush to clarify meaning. When silence appears, you do not break it for comfort. Containment is misinterpreted by most people as passivity. It is the opposite. Containment is pressure tolerance. And the individual who tolerates pressure without behavioral leakage becomes extremely difficult to manipulate. The second replacement behavior is selective visibility. You are no longer trying to be understood by everyone. Understanding becomes a privilege granted through time and consistency, not through immediate explanation. When people can't instantly map your motives, they are forced to observe longer, and extended observation increases perceived depth. Humans automatically assign higher rank to individuals who require more data to understand. The third replacement behavior is controlled unpredictability. Predictable people can be pre-managed. If observers know exactly how you will react to criticism, praise, tension, or delay, they can design interactions that guide you into the responses they want. The new identity breaks that pattern, not through chaos, through variance. Sometimes you answer quickly. Sometimes you wait. Sometimes you engage deeply. Sometimes you redirect the discussion. Sometimes you remain completely silent. The key is that your reactions no longer follow an emotional script. And once that happens, the environment stops attempting easy manipulation, because predictable leverage disappears. The fourth replacement behavior is status independence. The readable man constantly checks the room for feedback. Approval, agreement, smiles, nods, these signals regulate his confidence. The new identity operates differently. Feedback is observed, but it does not determine behavior. You do not accelerate when supported. You do not retreat when resisted. Your trajectory continues unaffected. And when a man moves without constantly referencing the room's approval, observers begin to categorize him differently, not as cooperative, not as agreeable, but as structurally self-directed. This is when a subtle psychological shift happens. People begin treating you more carefully, not because you demanded respect, but because they cannot reliably predict the consequences of pushing you. Unpredictable individuals create risk, and hierarchy always forms around risk management. The final replacement behavior is strategic silence. Silence is not absence of thought, it is information control. When you do not immediately reveal your interpretation of events, others start revealing theirs. When you do not rush to comment, others begin filling the space, and in doing so, they expose their priorities, their anxieties, their alliances. The readable man speaks to participate. The new identity listens to extract. By the time you speak, the structure of the room is already visible to you. And this is the true transformation. You are no longer entering interactions to connect. You are entering them to observe, stabilize, and position. Connection may still occur, but it is no longer your operating objective, because the man who needs connection can be influenced. The man who can function without it becomes extremely difficult to move. At this stage, the identity shift is complete. You are no longer the individual who tries to manage perceptions. You are the individual whose internal state cannot be accessed on demand. And once that happens, something quiet but irreversible happens inside the hierarchy. Pressure stops being directed at you, because pressure requires reaction, and reaction is no longer available. The readable man disappears. In his place stands something far more stable, a man whose behavior cannot be easily predicted, whose emotional state cannot be quickly altered, and whose silence forces everyone else to reveal themselves first. That is the final form of non-readability. And in every competitive environment on Earth, the individual who cannot be easily read is the one others eventually organize around.